Okay. Welcome to this week's edition of More Insights in Strategy Game Time Tech. We're on podcast episode 14. I'm Robert Kramer with Melanie Brew. We're both VP and principal analysts at More Insights, and we're talking a little bit about sports technology today. So on this show, we'll be talking about Google Cloud, the Masters Golf Tournament. IBM was doing a lot with the Masters with data. Mercedes-Benz and how data is driving experiences and operations at the Intuit Dome with Teradata and more. So quick disclaimer, Mel, this show is for information and entertainment purposes only. We will discuss publicly traded companies on this show. Its content should not be taken as investment advice. So let's get started. How are we doing today? What's going on? It's Friday and the weekend's upon us.
It's Friday, and for all our viewers, it's your birthday. Happy birthday.
Oh my God. Thank you. I feel like I'm getting old and hopefully not looking like it, but God, it's one of those things where you don't cherish those birthdays as much as you used to.
Well, it's worth celebrating anyway. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So what have you been lately?
Been busy. All of us have been on the road. Some travel. I just came back from Canva Create, and while I was there, I got to go to the Intuit Dome and a Clippers game. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that was really fun. Really, some really interesting technology there. And you were at Google Cloud Next.
Yes.
I'm excited. I saw you recorded a podcast with MLB. So isn't out yet, but give us a teaser.
Yeah. So MLB is using data pretty extensively, and we all remember the Moneyball movie, with Brad Pitt. And I actually asked. I met with Rob Engel. He's the VP of Software Engineering at Major League Baseball. He's been there, I think, about 15 years, and I asked him what prompted everything to kind of get this whole evolution of data with Major League Baseball, and he said that was really the beginning. The general manager of the Oakland Athletics, he was doing everything manually, but his insights and vision on using that data to make certain choices and to tag different players and how they would perform, etc., is really the enclave of what they're really doing. So they're getting all this data from different various areas and using leveraging the data and AI from Google Cloud to change the way the game is watched. So, and actually experienced. I interviewed Rob, and it was interesting during the conversation. I go, "Are you sure you're giving the St. Louis Cardinals this data? Because they don't look too good this year." Because that's my team. But he was really funny about it. But he basically said, if you don't have analysts to really track all the data and utilize what they're giving all the teams, then you're not able to take advantage of it because they're tracking millions of data points and the performance of the players, the updates of the delivery of how they're playing and the pitches, and this all goes back to like what we always talk about, how you can improve the experience for the fans, because that's really what it's about. And they have an amazing app that they have, as well as all delivers that information to that, helps broadcast. So it's some pretty cool stuff. What do you think about all this?
Yeah. So I got a tour of the MLB headquarters in New York, and this was last year, and it's amazing just the amount of technology and the number of feeds that are coming in there and what is happening. I mean, even down to like the temperature of the servers on each field. So they're monitoring kind of the health of the systems throughout. It is such an operation. It's amazing. It's really actually very cool if you're ever there and you can get in there to do that. But they did do some updates to the Ballpark app this year. And one of the things, so we're actually going to the Padres Astros game in Houston this weekend. And so I just did an update to my app so that I could do the just walk in, which is, I don't think the actual word for it, or the actual, where you don't have to, the hands free, where you don't have to show your ticket or anything. So I did this, and then I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here a little bit, but I did this at the Intuit Dome, and it is amazing how quickly it identifies you. Like, I can see how people could potentially be creeped out by this, but we'll talk about how they erase the data, and it's actually way safer than you think, but than people think. But it's a very cool experience, and you're able just to walk in, and then in some cases you can use it to pay for your concessions and all of that. But they're also doing, like you said, using that data to kind of inform like these little stories. So, if you put like Padres are my team, so I get like my own personalized kind of little chronicles each day, and I can get whatever for whatever team, and kind of it starts to get catered to me by what I consume. So this is all from data that's being pulled in to the Ballpark app. So very interesting. And of course they're working with Google Cloud on that.
Yeah, it's really interesting how these managers will actually look at all this data and then how it also affects like the broadcasters and affects the fans. So it's really going around in a lot of different ways, but they're using past data, which is being stored in Google Cloud, BigQuery, and then they're using current data that they're getting, and then they can make decisions based upon, the probability of this to happen, or predicting the base runner is going to make the success of this based upon what the pitcher pitches and who the catcher is and the conditions of the field, et cetera. I think it's really interesting. But one question I have is, how far do you want to go? Because sometimes that the angry manager or player with the umpire's call, or some of
Yeah.
this natural things that happen. I mean, should we just, and we've talked about this a lot in the past, shouldn't it just stop where it just kind of cleans up the game where it's needed, or how far does it go? Because the enjoyment of baseball is really going to the ballpark and sitting there like it's like almost like an actual park, and enjoying, like,
Yeah.
just people talking in the sun, or the day, if it's fall or October baseball where it's cold, and someone makes a bad call, it's okay. But how far do you want to go?
I agree with that, and I think there's two sides of that, which is the fan side, which that kind of makes it fun, right? I mean, even if your team gets a bad call, but there's always this excitement of like, is it a strike? Is it a ball? Were they safe? And there is that technology now that they can, actually Zoom provides that technology of the replay. And that was one of the things that I saw at the MLB headquarters, which is the Zoom Replay Center. They actually send those replays back to New York to be reviewed, and that so there is a side of that sort of becomes, I guess, kind of more clinical in a way. Um, but then actually, it was Noah Sykin from IBM
Okay.
who made a really good point about this, that these players train their entire lives for these moments, and so they deserve to get the call right. And so when you put it that way, I agree. And I have a son who's a pitcher, and there are times when like a a strike has been called a ball, and I'm like, what? So so I get it from both sides anyway. But talking about that sort of historical data, that's definitely something that IBM has brought into the Masters, and we've talked about that last year. We covered all of the Masters, and I don't think that the data could have predicted that Rory was going to miss that 2-foot putt.
Oh my God. He's always had tough times. Well, me too. Those short putts.
It's
Everybody does. But he pulled it out. His game was fantastic. But IBM, and I actually participated in a recent article with Noah, for the Wall Street Journal, based upon IBM using data, or having the data available for the Masters, and how AI and data is used for that fan experience through the app and the website. And I think it allows the fans to see a different perspective of the holes and the prediction of who's going to win, and the broadcasting teams. But the whole insights that it has, and I think another one's called Every Shot, and then there's one's called Every Hole. They use generative AI for real time predictions and different types of video clips. But Have you played with that app at all, or what do you think of
Oh,
everything?
yeah. I actually, there was a visualization of the app with all of the data points that come in, and it was really interesting about like it was actually visually really beautiful, but like just all the data points that come in like on the golf course. And it's insane the number of data points that go into each one of these predictions. And, we saw this at the US Open too. It's very accurate. I mean, when you take, 20 years of historical data and you put it in there, they're able to generate a pretty accurate prediction of what's going to happen next. That to me, it's cool. That's a cool novelty, but also, one, there's going to be moments like the 2 foot putt that's missed that makes it super exciting. Um,
Yes,
but then there's also just, do we want to wait and watch and see? Um, or do we want to know what's going to happen? You don't want to predict the future too much, right? Like,
exactly. But going back, like the ball games, going back to baseball, remember when you sat there or people sat there and they kept score on a scorecard? Um,
oh, I know
but how
people
do
used
you?
to do it.
Yeah, but how do you still have that and not get so obsessed with like the Major League Baseball app or the fan experience, how far it needs to go? Like, is the person or the user or the client of all this data, does it is it the fan, or is it the fan, the millennials, or who needs this information to keep more busy at the games? Because I think certain information is great for the game, but certain information is probably taking it too far, and you can't even enjoy the game because you're so busy doing stuff on these apps. Is there a fine line?
That is true. There were actually Verizon put out a study of how people are using their phones in stadiums, and that this was actually a study with the NFL. But the amount of time people are spending on their phones and the amount of data they're using on their phones during games shows that people aren't entirely paying attention to the game, right? They're
Right.
probably checking their fantasy league, they're sharing things on social, they're doing all of these things. So it's like we're losing our attention span for just watching a game and paying attention. We're like, are we enjoying the game anymore? Are we like, but I do think that there are people who enjoy sitting there and, still with their pencil and paper and marking the balls and strikes and tracking the game. The data also really informs how I think the teams manage their players.
Yep.
And there's data that the fans don't have access to that really inform, just is this player ready to play, or are they showing signs of illness? Are they showing signs of, injury? There's so many things now that really actually for safety reasons are super important. And we talked about this with AWS that actually is trickling down. So at a large level like NFL, they're taking all this data and they're predicting things for helmets, the different helmets for different positions,
Mhm.
how, because they now see the injuries that happen. So they're able to take that data and inform the younger, like Pop Warners and things like that. So preventing these injuries when the kids are little, not when, they're in the NFL. So I think those things are really important on the player side and protecting them. So, but back to the Masters, this is actually a really cool thing, and I wish that we had it, because I'm telling you, when we were watching the Masters when it went into the playoff, and we were all glued to the television, but we had a birthday in our house, and so we were leaving to go to dinner, and we were all on our phones, like just trying to watch it in the car, and everybody had different delays and everything. But Mercedes actually launched a Masters app in an in-car experience. So
I saw that.
yeah, very cool. Mercedes is, I mean, they've always been like the champion partner at the Masters tournament, and they have a longstanding partnership. But one thing that Mercedes has done with their kind of in-car experience is they've acknowledged the fact that you don't only do things while you're driving. So, with a remote workforce, like people often are on the road and they have to take a call or they have to even get on a video call. They've enabled like WebEx in Mercedes so that you can sit in your car as long as you're parked. There's obviously safety features here. As long as you're parked, you can watch the Masters or you can join a WebEx meeting. So I think this kind of technology, it's like there's, the CarPlay and those things, and then there's the actual native to the car technology that's really changing the way people experience
That's
things
pretty
that aren't
cool.
happening within your drive time.
That's
So
really neat. Yeah, one of the things I wanted to also mention, I think the fans benefit huge from MLB and golf, but also obviously the teams and the players. But the broadcasters, I think it makes their job probably a little bit easier because they're able to get so much data from the past and the present to actually do their play-by-play, their color routines, and bringing information a little quicker to the audience versus in the past. Um,
mhm.
and I also think that there's some sustainability that we'll talk about with some other companies on some later podcasts and assets that we're doing. But I think that the broadcasting is a major component of this as well.
Yeah. Well, what it does, and this is the same thing with the masters, is it allows them to cover more than just like the leading pack, right? Like,
Hmm.
so it allows them
Good
to
point.
say, you have your favorite player is not even on a leaderboard. You can still get updates on
Hmm.
each player, where before they didn't have the manpower, the woman power, the people power to do that. So, if it's a family member, you're just a fan, whatever. It allows them
Good
to
point.
give that coverage across all the players in all the places. I mean, they did that at the US Open, and it was really amazing to be able to see, like, of all the different courts everywhere, you could still get updates of whoever's playing at any given time.
So, so you went also. You were there last week, I believe. You were talking about the Intuit Dome. How's that stadium? Is it a pretty cool place?
It is massive. Yeah, it was pretty cool. So, while I was in LA, I went to a Clippers game. They were playing the Rockets. Just happened to
Fun.
be, I mean, I live in Texas. Rockets are my team, but I just happened to be there at the time. But I was able to get a tour of the facility with Teradata actually, and the Intuit Dome's CIO joined us. And so I was able to see like so many cool things. I mean, the starting with like the facial recognition for entry and purchases, they call that game face ID. And then there's all these like AiFi powered autonomous checkout stores, which I wrote about that like early 2023 when they were just getting started. And so that was kind of fun to see like the progress of that. But Teradata has, I mean, the number of kind of points around the stadium where they're gathering data about the fan, the user experience, and kind of taking that sort of digital experience to the physical experience. So being able to recognize like where you are. So you have to download the Intuit app, and then it knows where you are throughout the stadium. It knows if you walked into a store.
Wow.
It actually knows if you picked up a jersey and then you didn't purchase it. So that gives them the opportunity to do things like offer you a discount on that jersey if they see that you've gone back and looked at that jersey several times. There's some really
Wow.
cool kind of fan experience things where they have microphones and speakers it all around the seats, above the seats, and they listen for like kind of the decibels of the fans screaming, so they know who like the mega fans are. They know how to target those fans because they know who bought the ticket, or they know who's in the seat. So typically at an event, you may not know who's in that seat. You know who bought the ticket, but you don't actually know who came in, because I may have 5 tickets on my app scan them all and bring in those 5 people. But the way that they do it with the Intuit Dome app, each person scans, they register through the app, they scan their ticket. So you know who's sitting in every seat. So they're really able to target an experience to that user. They have games. Each seat is like, has like this remote that you can play games. So you interact with like the huge, massive Jumbotron. So there's just all these data points that are feeding in from Teradata that allow them to customize this experience to the fans. Also get tons of data on like buying behavior, how people interact in, throughout the stadium, preferences, things like that, that really not just inform obviously the fan experience, but really help retailers for their stocking and for, how they present merchandise, how they interact with, at what times they're busier, all of these things. It's really like,
Wow.
it's a pretty amazing experience. And the other thing I liked about the Intuit Dome, which was not technology, was that there's this whole outdoor area, similar to like what we saw at Petco Park. There's this whole outdoor area that you don't actually have to have a ticket for, where kids come and they have basketball courts and kids are playing out there. And so it's a real like this community event that it is like a park. They really make it like you still have to go through security to get in, but you don't have to actually have a ticket to get into that part of it. So they make it a really safe and fun environment for people just to come and be part of the game, whether you have a ticket or not. So I thought that was cool.
It's a new stadium, though. I believe it opened up
Yeah,
last year, so it's got to be pretty state of the art with technology and some of
it
the
is
yeah.
very state of the art. It so much so that like when I first looked around, I was like, "That's a lot of stuff that could break." Having every seat have its own, like little like a controller for a video game that gets parked in the seat, but it's on a lavalier, so like that, like there's a lot of things that could break, but it really makes the fan experience interesting. They also have LED lights at each seat, so they can do these really incredible light shows throughout the whole stadium. They really thought of kind of everything with building this out.
And I'm sure they're using data and AI to the fan experience through the NBA app, and I
Mhm.
believe the company that we're in discussions with and we were friendly with is Teradata. They're using their Vantage Cloud to store a lot of this for cloud analytics and for the
Yeah.
team and the arena as well for data.
They're also using Cisco for all of the connectivity
Okay,
in the stadium, and that was actually, that's such a major thing, right? Like when you're in a stadium and you can't even get on Wi-Fi or use your phone. I didn't have any problems at all the entire time.
that's great. Well, there's a lot going on with sports and the technology of it, and I believe from my perspective that a lot of this, what's going on in sports technology, goes on with manufacturing, goes on with retail. It's the same type of data and how you use it to improve your operations or improve your supply chain, include improving your CRM or your customer experience. So I believe that data is probably the key to everything. So for this all to work properly, Major League Baseball, the Masters, Intuit Dome, they all have to have their data in order for us to get the correct information that they're trying to provide all the people involved. What your
Yeah, I mean, it's the data, it's the technology, it's all of it. That's why, look, we've said this before, like these sports sponsorships are no longer just sponsorships. They're really a way to showcase technology, and it and in a way that is consumable. It is like people understand it. It's a very digestible kind of mechanism for people just to go and see like, oh, this technology. It's way cooler than seeing it in like some, manufacturing plant, right? Like you could take somebody to see a a widget being made, or you could take them to see a basketball game. They might see the same technology, but it's way more like relatable, and it's a lot more fun.
Absolutely.
So
Well, it shows you, just one last thing I want to say. It shows you that modernizing your sport is a critical thing, just like modernizing your manufacturing facility, because you can see the outcome of the fan experience that is happening with all these sports, and the outcome for the manufacturer is the same. And if you don't do it, the teams that don't, put this in their stadiums or give it to their fans are probably losing, whether they're all doing it, but if they're not doing it, they're probably losing, credibility with the fans. It's the same with the manufacturing company with their, with their growth. It's a competitive advantage to have this.
yeah.
Anyway,
And certainly losing revenue opportunities, right? So
yes,
like, I mean, we didn't talk a whole lot about AiFi, but these stores that allow you just to walk in, grab something and go because they've already identified who you are, you've already registered your payment. All of these things. I mean, Amazon has these. There's actually these just walk out stores in airports, and there's actually one it used to be Minute Maid Park, and now it's called something else, but in Houston where I'll be tomorrow, yeah. So maybe I'll get some video from that and share it. But
great,
those are revenue opportunities too, because nobody wants to wait in line when you're in the middle of an inning and you got to get back to your seat and watch. So it's really important for all of those things. So
I
with
agree.
that, I hope you have a really happy birthday. This was
Thank
our
you.
special birthday edition of Game Time Tech.
Thank
Thank
you.
you to everybody who has joined us. If there's anything that you want to hear next time, drop us a comment. If you like what you saw, hit that subscribe button, and we will see you next time. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.